And good morning to you. I'm just going to jump right in this morning. The title today, they're always 2012. To be sovereign, we must speak as sovereigns. We have all, except for some indigenous peoples, been raised in a culture of misplaced authority. We are trained to look outside ourselves for permission to live our lives as we would like to live them. When that permission is denied, it creates stress, a host of negative emotions, disease, and death. Why? Because intuitively and unconsciously, we know that we are created to be sovereign. And when the world treats us as slaves, which it must when we don't remember who we are out of harmony with the divine reality of our being. Those who are remembering must learn to speak and conduct ourselves as sovereigns. I tend to be really thick-headed. It takes me a while to get some things. As much as I have studied how to be a free man on the land and how to exercise sovereignty, I, in this 7-year battle with the courts, still am trying to argue with the courts for them to recognize my sovereignty. Almost the entire time, with a rare exception or two, I have acted as the defendant in the case and defended myself against false accusations and against injustice as I perceived it. Arguing is something a slave does. It doesn't seem right, but that's the way it is. Slaves argue. Sovereigns declare and decree and stand in truth. No matter what happens out there, a sovereign stands in the truth and makes the decree. This is how it has to be for me. When I looked at the 1215.org website that someone sent me a couple days ago, and I spent all that time, it was Tuesday, I spent all that time listening and reading and going through things that were sent to me. Something clicked inside and I thought, I'm starting to get it a little bit more clearly. I'm starting to see. Do you hear? I'm not saying I've arrived yet. I'm starting to see more clearly. And that's the process that we're going through. We're starting to see things more clearly. So I created, after my video yesterday, I created a document based on this new clarity that I was given. And I'm going to read you the document. Now, it may not make sense to some of you. To some of you it will. But I want you to listen, and perhaps, I will actually post it on my website later today. It's not there yet. I will actually post it later in the day, and there will be a link provided on Facebook, and maybe I'll even go back and put a link on YouTube, although it will not be there initially today. Things show up faster on Facebook than they do YouTube, generally speaking, even though YouTube is the first one to get the video. Facebook is where the conversation and the dialogue takes place. That's the really important stuff, not on YouTube. Anyway, here's what I filed with the court yesterday by notary presentment. In other words, I had it notarized and the notary mails it and makes sure it gets into the postal system for delivery to the intended receiver. In this case, the clerk of the court, the state attorney, and the sheriff's department. Notice of counterclaim challenge of jurisdiction, order, or show cause. That's the title. Comes now a man commonly known as Ronald T. Van Dyke, one of the people, a sentient being beyond name, form, and time, by special invitation and not appearing generally, before this court serving notice of counterclaim, challenge of jurisdiction of this court to hear this matter other than according to the law of the land, as referenced in my previous notice of intent and affidavit of truth filed as a defendant on June 11, 2012. I am now the plaintiff, private attorney, and this is now, by lawful decree, a superior court of record operating under the common law in use since the Magna Carta. All wording in this document is understood and intended to use common definitions and exclude any legal definitions designed to deceive or misinform we the people in order to gain unlawful jurisdiction under color of law. Whereas my attempt to obtain information by phone on Monday, June 18, 2012, at approximately 2:15 p.m. from the State Attorney's Office, telephone number included, was met with refusal to cooperate except with an attorney or public defender by one identifying herself as Kathy. And whereas officers of the state did unlawfully trespass on private property protected by land patent. And whereas I was attacked and assaulted with threats to use weapons. And whereas I was unlawfully detained against my will. And whereas the state of Florida and the Circuit Court of the 18th Judicial Circuit acted in dishonor in failing to respond to my notice of receipt and notice of response filed on April the 19th, 2012. And whereas there was no lawful arrest warrant presented according to the law of the land. And whereas I am not a citizen of the United States of America Corporation or any of its subsidiaries. And whereas I am one of the people from whom this court and all government agencies derive their only just and lawful authority. Therefore, I hereby order that this matter be dismissed with prejudice, or show cause on and for the record under what authority the state of Florida intends to proceed. In order to reach a mutual and harmonious agreement, I am willing to make the following concessions. Conditional acceptance. The state of Florida in this matter seems to allege that I have some kind of contractual obligation to obtain a state-issued driver's license, even though I do not agree that there is any such contract. I was willing in October 2010 and remain willing to obtain such an ID provided the state provides me with a remedy by which I can do so while preserving all of my natural rights without making me a ward of and under the jurisdiction of the state in any manner. I am willing to pay the normal rate of $48 for 6 years to avoid future conflict with proper remedy provided. In addition, I am willing to register my privately held motor vehicle in the name and with the protection of a common law business trust at the normal rate of $46.15 per year. The state must release all titles to the vehicle and acknowledge in writing that it has no lawful claim upon or related to said vehicle. Also, I will, upon acceptance of these terms in regard to both the driver's license and motor vehicle registration, obtain the minimum of insurance requested by current statute. Should the state of Florida fail to provide remedy as indicated herein, it forever waives any and all claims against me or my property held personally or in trust. This is my lawful decree in this court of record, made on and for the record, without prejudice, claiming all natural rights guaranteed forever to all sovereigns and freemen by the United States and State of Florida constitutions. No matter may be heard in this case prior to resolution of this matter of lawful jurisdiction. I consider this decree final. Any attempt at coerced pleading or arraignment shall be a violation of my rights. Should the state of Florida wish to pursue this matter further, it may only do so in a court that conforms to and functions in accordance with Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution, in which all officers of the court have and abide by their sworn and subscribed oaths of office, supporting and defending the rights of the people, and in which all matters are heard in accordance with all aspects of due process of law, and only trial by jury, and in keeping with Amendments 5, 6, and 7. I retain the right to sue for damages in this matter under Titles 18 and 42 of the United States Code. This includes all government agencies and agents operating under color of law in violation of the constitutions and oaths of office required thereby. Ignorance of lawful duties and responsibilities of public servants is no excuse. You have been notified. Herein fail not. Notice to principal is notice to agent, and notice to agent is notice to principal. Signed, without prejudice, dated, and notarized, and presented by the notary to the court. And the notary is an officer of the court. So I have the record of testimony of the notary and of the post office that delivers it with a return receipt. So I have two records in addition to my own testimony. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word shall be established. I want to say something, folks. You and I are sovereigns, and it doesn't matter if the state agrees or not. The state is the creation of the people. It does not hold authority over sovereigns. It only holds authority over those that are ignorant and unaware and do not know how to exercise their own sovereignty and their own authority and their own responsibility. And that's most of the world. That's why the system exists as it is. The system becomes the parent of a child that has not yet grown up and become spiritually mature enough to exercise control over their own lives. And because they cannot control and take possession and authority in their own life, they need someone to be the trustee of their rights, the trustee of their property, the trustee of their person, if you will. That's how the system is set up. You don't know your rights? Well, we'll tell you what your permissions are going to be. We'll tell you what you're allowed and what you're not allowed to do because you don't know. Most of us don't. I didn't. And so I go through my life being angry, like a little spoiled child, angry that I can't get my own way, throwing temper tantrums now and again because I can't get my own way. Or I stuff it and push it down and pretend that everything is wonderful, even though I know that the world, that me and the world around me are not living the way it's supposed to be. I know something's wrong. I know it intuitively. I know it unconsciously. I know it. I just know that it isn't the way that it's supposed to be. Do you get that? That's what guilt and shame and all these things are about. It's the warning sign that, hey, something's wrong. Something's out of alignment. you're missing something important. You get it, folks? We've got to wake up, and 2012 is our wake-up call. This is our time. I don't know if arrests are going to start happening today and in the next days that ensue from this summer solstice or winter solstice if you live in the southern hemisphere. I don't know. I don't know how it's all going to pan out. But this I do know, as more and more stand in our sovereignty and act and speak as sovereigns, the world must change. Must change. And we, the sovereigns who wake up, will provide a just governing and teaching tool, if you will, for the rest of humanity to awaken. Because they can't awaken when they're lulled and hypnotized into a false reality, into the matrix. You can't wake up if that's where you are. You just go back to sleep. Stay there. Stay there until it's time for you to finally come to yourself, as the prodigal son and the prodigal daughter do in the pig pen of this world. We come to ourselves and we say, wait a minute. My father is the king. My mother is the queen. And I am a child of sovereignty. Therefore, I am a sovereign. I am a prince. I am a princess. I am a god, goddess. I am the priest, priestess. I am the one from whom the authority for my life derives. From God and goddess in me, acting through me, as me. My word becomes the decree. My word becomes the one thing. The ego is now the higher self when you step into sovereignty. It's no longer the lower ego fighting like a spoiled child and asking permission or demanding permission when it doesn't know it even has the right to make lawful demands. Do you get it, folks? We're waking up. It's time to be sovereign and to start speaking and acting as sovereigns. And together, we will change the world. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening.